Hey guys, it's a nice, beautiful, sunny day, and I got a lot of work done today. I meant to actually get some footage of it, but I just didn't have time. I took a half day off of work so I could get a lot of grass seed spread, and I just didn't have time to do it. Back there on the hillside that goes over to the river, I mean, you can see all those oak trees back there. There was tons of leaves, and where I put that new fence up back there, over the course of the winter, the wind made all the leaves get piled up right along the fence, which makes it even harder to rake them. So my plan was to just rake them out away from the fence and then mow them up with a mower, which ended up taking a lot longer than I expected because, man, like I said, there was a ton of leaves and they were really wet, hard to move. At one point, I got the tractor out and took the generator down there and used my leaf blower to try and help blow some of them away from the fence because it was just wearing me out. I mean, there's like 300 feet of fence back there. It takes a long time with a rake. But, excuse me, I finally got all those leaves raked up and mowed up. And then I took my chain harrow and roughed up the ground back and forth. And then I used my new broadcaster that I showed you for the ATV to spread the seed. So once I got the leaves raked up and mulched up, the rest of it was pretty easy. I used machinery wherever I could, so the tractor came into play today because I used it to carry the generator up and down the fence line so I could use the leaf blower. I used the mower to chop up the leaves and pull the chain harrow, and I used the ATV to pull the broadcaster to spread the seed. So I used mechanized ways to do things wherever I could to save myself a little bit of time. So anyway, I got the grass seed out, and the reason I wanted to go ahead and do that today was because we got snow coming. It's been a beautiful day, probably about 55 degrees and sunny out here. But believe it or not, we have a winter storm watch in effect. So on Saturday, today's Thursday, 2 days from now, we got snow coming. And in the month of March, if you put your grass seed out right before a good snow, it doesn't have to be a deep snow, just an inch or two, just enough snow to cover the grass. Okay, you put your grass seed out right before a snow in the month of March, and you'll have really good germination because once that snow starts to melt, it'll percolate into the soil and it'll push the seed down in there, make good contact, good soil contact for your seed. So with the snow coming in March, I always watch for a snow in March. Usually we get one maybe, and I always watch for that, and that's when I put my seed out a day or two before a snow, FYI. So what's going on with the trailer? Well, got it hooked up to the Tundra here, and I thought it'd be a good night to go out and do a little towing. I've been eager to do this for a while. I've towed this trailer with the Jeep Gladiator, the Ram 1500. I towed one almost identical to this with the F-150, 5-liter V8. I've got a lot of experience towing trailers like this with various trucks, but one thing I've never done is tow with a Toyota Tundra. I've never towed anything with a Toyota Tundra. So good opportunity to go out and do a little towing test. And even though gas is $4 a gallon, I want to see what kind of fuel economy this gets pulling a big trailer. How does it handle the big trailer? How does this stack up to the other domestic branded trucks that I've towed with before? I think it'll be interesting. So let's see how she does, shall we? Ouch, that hurts. This thing was only half empty too. That's the sad part about it. This is an expensive video I'm making for you guys. Should be getting close. Finally. That is absolutely ridiculous. All right, so now that I'm bankrupt, we can go ahead and get this video going. So the truck is topped off. Sun's right in my face, I apologize. So I'm gonna hit the road here, and we're probably gonna do, I don't know, 30 or 40 miles one way, do a loop, and then come back and just kind of get a feel for the truck with this trailer and see what kind of mileage we get, and I'll give you my thoughts on it. It's gonna be interesting. Here we go. So here we go, headed down the road in the Toyota Tundra. Now this obviously was the model on sale up until 2021. Everybody knows there's a brand new Tundra out there now, but they're still kind of hard to get. And if you find one, it seems like almost all of the dealerships are marking them up like 10 grand. Some are doing 15 grand. I've seen more than that. So if you find a new Tundra, you may end up having to pay above sticker for it, which is insane. And for that reason, a lot of people are looking at lightly used trucks instead. And there's also this thought out there, and I kind of agree, that this Tundra, the previous generation, was on the market for so long that they were able to get all of the bugs worked out. Very few problems with these Tundras. And anytime you have a brand spanking new vehicle, very first model year, you're always going to have a lot of issues. I don't care if you're Toyota or which company it is, they're going to have issues. And we've already seen the new 2022 Tundra with a lot of issues being reported by owners who do have them. Everything from turbo wastegate issues to electrical issues. I mean, we've seen lots of different check engine lights and electrical gremlins with them, and some body fitment issues. I mean, so they've got some bugs they need to work out on those new ones. I would suggest getting a lightly used Tundra because this particular model is pretty much bulletproof. So you can see we're getting 7.5 miles per gallon so far. That's not very good. Hopefully that'll improve at some point along this trip. Not very good there, but I kind of expected it to be poor since the fuel economy running unloaded is poor on these trucks. That's the only thing I can say about these Tundras is the negative is that they get horrible fuel economy. When this thing was bone stock, you guys remember it was getting a solid 15, and I was really happy with that. But as soon as I put a 10-ply tire on it, a slightly larger tire, and I didn't even go with a big tire. These are just like 33 1150s, not even a big tire. It immediately killed the mileage. This thing is seeing about 13 miles per gallon now, so it's pretty atrocious. And so I kind of expected the towing MPG to be bad, but anyhow, I'll be back in a little bit with an update. All right, so there's something else I want to mention about this Toyota Tundra. So almost all pickup trucks on the market have a tow haul feature on them where you can press a button somewhere in the cab and it'll activate a tow haul mode for when you're pulling a trailer like this, right? Well, in my experience, almost every one of them, doesn't matter which brand of truck you're talking about, almost all of them have very little difference in the tow haul program. I mean, you can tell a little bit of difference, but really it doesn't do a whole lot when you press that button. Boy, that's a nice car. Sounds good too. Anyway, like on a Silverado or a Ram 1500 or an F-150, you press that tow haul mode button and it kind of changes the shift program a little bit, but it's not really aggressive, and you don't feel any additional throttle response or power really. It's just a minor difference. In this truck, that's not the case. If you press the tow haul button in this Tundra, it is a noticeable difference. The throttle response becomes much more crisp. Everything gets dialed up. It makes the truck feel more powerful. The transmission shifting program changes a lot also. I mean, it is a serious difference. And so obviously I am running the truck in tow haul mode. That's just something to keep in mind. On these Tundras, you definitely do want to use the tow haul mode because it makes a big difference. So far it's showing 7.6 miles per gallon, so I got the cruise control set here at 65 miles an hour, which is, boy, this is a rough road, by the way. But 65 is usually where I pull this trailer. The speed limit on these 4-lane parkways, freeways, whatever you want to call them, used to be 65 miles an hour. Several years ago, they raised it to 70, but when I'm pulling a trailer like this, I stick to 65 just for safety, and also to save a little bit of fuel economy, because once you get to these speeds, every 5 miles an hour you tack on is going to really reduce your mileage. So just FYI, 65 is where I'm cruising at right now, and I've gone about 14 miles so far. So what I'm going to do is, like I said, drive a loop and turn around and head back to the same fuel station, the same pump, and top this truck off so we can get some hand calculated numbers. As far as how the Tundra's doing so far, honestly, I've had a little bit of sway. The trailer is trying to wag the tail of this truck a little bit, which is very strange. I did not expect that. Kind of wondering what's going on there. It's not a windy day. This Tundra is a really heavy truck for the half-ton class. It weighs 6,000 pounds. One of the heaviest trucks in the half-ton class that you can get. It's got a wide stance, especially with these new wheels and tires I put on here. So it's got a really big footprint and a lot of curb weight, and so that makes it kind of weird that it's kind of wagging the tail on me a little bit. Don't know what's going on with that, but I mean, it's not bad. I mean, you can see the steering wheel, you know, I'm able to just pretty easily maintain control of it. It just has a weird sensation. Again, not really sure what's up with that, but not too bad, not too bad. You know, the weight distribution setup definitely is going to be a must with just about any half-ton truck you're going to tow with. So I would definitely recommend that. That Husky Centerline TS setup does a great job. I don't have the bars on at the moment, so that might be why I've got a little bit of sway going on, but I've pulled this trailer with other trucks not using the sway bars and didn't have this issue. Normally I only use those sway bars if I've got a really heavy load back there. So again, don't know what's up with that, but I'll be back again in a little bit with another update. All right, so I'm turning around here and heading back on the other end of this loop, and I just had something very interesting happen to me. So I had the cruise control set just like I always do when I tow, and I started to pull up a hill, a fairly steep hill. I don't know, probably a 4 or 5% grade, and all of a sudden the truck started slowing down. I don't know how to explain it. I mean, it didn't like completely fall on its face. It didn't really feel like that the cruise control had didn't feel like the cruise control had disabled itself, because it was still pulling. It was just not pulling as hard, and you know, I was losing speed. Really strange. And then I tapped the brake pedal to see if it would go ahead and disable the cruise control, and then it did fall on its face. I don't know, that was weird. Never had that happen before with any other trucks that I've towed with. I mean, normally, here, let me set this again. All right, I set it again. Let's see if it happens again. I mean, normally I always set the cruise control where I want, and the computer in the truck just handles it. You know, if I hit a grade, it'll downshift and keep rolling. If you go down a hill, it'll use some engine braking. I mean, it's usually never a problem, you know. But for some reason, this truck didn't like pulling up a hill with cruise set. So I don't know if that's programmed into these. Leave a comment below. Is that programmed into these Tundras? Are they set to do that? You know, if you're in cruise control and it really has to labor to go up a hill, is it normal for it to just bog down like that and lose speed? I don't know. So we're kind of going up this is an even smaller grade, maybe a 3 or 4% grade. And it's pulling about 3,000 RPMs, still getting about 7.5 miles per gallon according to the dash there. Running quite a bit of RPM to pull this trailer, which brings me to my next talking point, which is power. How does this iForce V8 stack up to the other trucks that I've towed with? Well, the Jeep Gladiator had the EcoDiesel. The last one that I had the EcoDiesel engine, and it's just no contest. I mean, the EcoDiesel, not only did it make more torque, significantly more torque, but it also had all of its torque down below 2,000 RPM, which is where you like to cruise. So it was just no contest. You know, the diesel engines are always going to tow better than the gasoline engines. Everybody knows that. That's no surprise. But this engine does feel strong. I mean, it's doing a good job pulling the trailer. We crested the hill and it finally upshifted, so now we're back down to 2,000 RPM again. The thing about the diesel is it would hold the upper gears. You know, that truck had an 8-speed transmission. 7th and 8th were both overdrive gears. 6th was 1-to-1, and it would stay in 6, 7, or 8 all the time. Even on the hills, it would always stay in the upper gears. If I had a really steep grade, it would downshift below 6th, but 90% of the time it was always in those upper gears. You know, these gasoline engines, they're notorious for shifting around a lot. You know, upshift, downshift, upshift, downshift. You know, the RPMs have to swing around a lot because the meat and potatoes of the power band is up in the mid-range. You know, you like to cruise in the lower RPMs, but the power really is in the higher RPMs, and so that's why these things have to shift a lot. You know, this one, we're going up a little bit of a grade here now. Let's see if it downshifts again. It's probably in 5th gear right now. This is a 6-speed auto. It's in 5th gear, I'm pretty sure at this point. Yeah, it just downshifted. So every little grade makes this thing downshift to 4th. Sometimes it's going on down to 3rd. So, you know, it's having to shift around a little bit more, which again is to be expected, but it's not bad though. I mean, it's, you know, I've actually towed with trucks that are worse. This one's not bad. It does have the power. It's maintaining speed fine. You know, we're going up a hill right now. The camera doesn't do it justice, but this is a fairly steep grade we're pulling up right now, and it's maintaining speed just fine. So as far as power goes, no, it's not as great as the diesel, but it's doing a good job. And I wouldn't hesitate to tow just about anything within the towing spec. This one's rated, I think, 9,400 pounds towing. You know, I wouldn't hesitate to tow anything, you know, within that specification. I think this iForce V8 would do a real good job with that. The only thing that's a little bit concerning is the mileage. Still at 7.5. Starting to look like 7.5 is where it's going to end up, because I've got 26 miles on here. We're going to have a little over 50 miles, looks like, on this loop when I get back. So you're going to have to dig into your pocket for some cash to keep this thing filled up with gasoline. But other than that, it's doing a pretty good job. And going this direction, I haven't had any more of that sway. So maybe I just hit a windy patch back there. You know, it hasn't really been a windy day, but sometimes you get into, you know, little patches of wind, especially as the sun's going down like it is now. And I'm getting to the really rough section of road here. Good Lord, they need to fix this road. If you ever drive through Kentucky, guys, make sure you don't have to go to the restroom before you hit this road. All right, we'll check back when we get to the service station. Gonna top this thing off, see where the mileage really is hand calculated, because this dash display has been known to be a little bit off. Sometimes it's really accurate, sometimes it's not. So we'll do some hand calculations and see where it ends up. Overall thoughts, it's doing a pretty good job so far as a tow rig. All right, I made it back to the fuel station and just shy of 50 miles, 48.8 miles. But remember, I do have tires that are just a little bit taller than stock, about 3% actually. So if you add that into the odometer reading, I'm basically at about 50 miles. 50-mile loop. Let's top the truck off and see what we got. So I did come back to exactly the same fuel pump that I was at before, just to make sure that we take that variable out of this calculation. Everything should jive just fine. So however many gallons it takes, we'll divide that into 50. I'm gonna wait about 10 seconds and give it one more squeeze. There we go, 6.2. All right, so just to be completely accurate here, if you take the 48.8 miles that I drove on this loop and you add 3% to it to account for my tires, you come to 50.2 miles. And then we put 6.2 gallons of fuel back in the truck from the same pump. So if you hand calculate that, it comes to 8.1 miles per gallon. So the dash display here was a little bit pessimistic, which probably is because of the difference in tire size. So again, you have to add 3% to that number, and that would make it pretty daggone close. So pulling this 24-foot enclosed trailer on the typical kind of roads that I would pull it on, going to a campsite or an off-road park, looks like it would be about an 8 mile per gallon truck. So a couple of things that I noticed. First of all, the Toyota Tundra has a feature on it where you can change the aim of the headlights from the driver's seat. I don't know why other manufacturers have not copied that idea, because that was awesome. As you can see, it's dark outside now. And when you're hooking up to a trailer like this, your headlight aim is going to be a little bit high. And so being able to adjust that from the comfort of the driver's seat is awesome. You can just turn that dial and it brings your headlight beam down where you need it to be, so you don't get flashed by oncoming traffic. And then after you're finished towing, you can run that dial back down and the headlights return to where they were. Awesome feature. I love that. As I mentioned, the tow haul button actually does something on this truck. It makes it feel completely different for towing. So I really like that also. The engine power, I mean, it's pretty good. I mean, you have to compare it apples to apples with like the Ford Coyote V8, and like maybe the 5.3 from GM's a little bit weaker maybe, but most of the V8 engines that are out there in these trucks these days, the 5.7 Hemi and the Ram, they're all pretty similar in terms of horsepower and torque. This one feels about the same as you would expect. So the power, I mean, it's fine. It gets the job done just fine. It's not a diesel, but then again, that's what we're going for here, something that's simpler and easier to maintain and own. Something to definitely be said for that. So I'm happy with the power. The brakes on the Tundra are not the best brakes in the world, but they're fine. They get the job done, and the trailer has its own brakes, so stopping is not a problem. After I got out of that windy patch, the handling was fine. So overall, the Tundra's a pretty good tow pig. I think it would do a great job for us. 8 miles per gallon, that kind of sucks, especially when gasoline's $4 and rising. So that's the only concern that I have. But otherwise, I think the Toyota Tundra is a pretty good tow machine. So I'm pretty happy with the truck. I think it's going to be just fine. All right, guys, hopefully this has been entertaining or educational or something for you. But I got to get on out of the way so some other folks can get in here and get some fuel. This big 24-foot trailer hooked up to this big long crew cab truck takes up a lot of space in the parking lot. So for now, I'm out of here. We'll talk to you later.